Have you ever been working on something really detailed and complicated,
Uh-huh.
and then right when you think you've got it all figured out,
Yeah.
some new wrinkle pops up and throws everything off?
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time.
I feel like that's what's going on right now with employment-based green cards,
Interesting.
specifically with this thing called PERM.
Okay, perm, yeah. A lot of people listening probably know about that.
Right. For a lot of folks who want to work and live in the U.S. permanently, PERM is often the first hurdle, and a big one.
Absolutely. It's that foundation, that first step in the whole process.
PERM might not be most exciting topic, you know? It doesn't get the same attention as some of the bigger immigration categories.
True.
But it's really important. It's the backbone of how tons of U.S. employers sponsor people from other countries to come work here.
I see, yeah.
I'm talking tech companies, hotel chains, restaurants. I even saw something about hairdressers going through this process.
Oh, wow. You didn't know that.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And while perm has always been known for being, well, kind of a pain with all the paperwork and requirement,
It does have a reputation, right?
it does. But what we're seeing now is a whole new level of complexity.
Really?
Yeah. We're hearing from people in the immigration law world, and our sources back this up, that there's been a huge increase in requests for information or RFIs, and they're hitting cases right at the beginning.
At what stage?
At the very first stage, the prevailing wage determination stage, you're just getting started with the process, and bam, you get hit with this unexpected demand for more information.
Okay, that's interesting. Can you remind us quickly what happens at the prevailing wage determination stage?
Sure. Basically, the Department of Labor, the DOL, figures out the minimum legal wage that an employer has to pay for a specific job in a specific place.
I see.
It's all about making sure that hiring people from other countries doesn't hurt the wages of U.S. workers who are already here and doing similar jobs.
Got it. So employers are trying to establish that baseline salary, and then wham, they get it with this RFI.
Exactly. And the worst part is you only have 14 days to respond. No extensions, no exceptions. It's a really tight turnaround time.
Wow, 14 days. That's not a lot of time, especially for something this important.
Right. So the big question is, why are we seeing this sudden increase in scrutiny at this early stage? We've been digging into this, talking to people who work with PERM all the time.
Okay, and what are they saying?
And it seems like this isn't just a fluke, it's a real trend, especially in fiscal year 2024. Our goal today is to understand what's driving this increase in RFIs and what it all means. Do we have any idea how much of an increase we're talking? Like, is this a small bump or a big jump?
That's a good question. While our sources don't give us exact numbers or percentages,
Hey,
what they are saying pretty consistently is that this is a noticeable increase across the board. It's not just a small fluctuation. It feels like a significant shift. So let's unpack this whole rising tide of RFIs thing, as some people are calling it.
all right, let's dive in.
It's not just a feeling, it's something that immigration attorneys everywhere are experiencing. Even the veterans who've been doing this for years, they're seeing this heightened scrutiny right out of the gate. The key here is to figure out what's causing it. What's making the DOL ask all these questions?
Yeah, what's triggering these RFIs?
Well, our sources point to a few key areas. One of the most common ones seems to be mismatches with a job title.
Uh-huh.
So the employer might give a certain job title,
Okay.
but it doesn't line up perfectly with the Department of Labor's official list of job categories, their SOC codes. It seems like the DOL is being very strict about making sure the job title fits neatly into their system.
That makes sense. If the title's a little off, it could throw off the whole wage calculation. What else are they finding?
Another big area is the job description itself.
Okay.
The DOL wants enough detail to understand the job duties and the skill level required so they can determine the right wage.
Sure.
But if the description is too long or includes tasks that don't really belong under that specific job category,
I see.
that can also raise red flags. It's a balancing act. And remember, we're talking about the ETA 9141 form here. That's the actual application for PERM.
So you can't be too vague, but you can't just throw everything in the kitchen sink in there either.
Exactly. It needs to be just right. Another thing they're seeing is issues with the worksite location. It needs to be crystal clear where the job is actually going to be performed.
I can see why that would be important.
Because the prevailing wage could be totally different depending on where you are in the country.
Right, cost of living and all that.
And of course, the wage itself is a major factor.
Right.
If the DOL thinks the proposed wage doesn't match the job duties and the experience required, there they ask questions. They want to make sure employers are playing by the rules and offering a fair wage based on the standards for that job and location.
And sometimes it's even more vague than that, right? I remember reading about RFIs where the DOL just says they cannot render a decision and asks for more information
Oh yeah, those are tough.
without even saying what's wrong. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces.
Exactly. It puts a lot of pressure on the employer and their lawyer to figure out what the DL is really concerned about, even when they don't come right out and say it. So we've talked about why the DOI might be getting more picky at the start of this process, but what does it really mean for the people involved? Why should someone listening to this care about more paperwork at the beginning of what's already a pretty long and complicated immigration process?
That's a great question. The truth is, this increase in RFIs has a big ripple effect. For employers, it means delays in getting their employees on the board permanently, and that can be a huge headache. It adds more paperwork, more costs, and just more hassle.
And for the employees, it's even worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means more anxiety and uncertainty about their future here in the U.S., on top of what's already a stressful situation. Remember, we only have 14 days to respond to these RFIs, so any delay in getting information from the employer can really snowball and push back the whole timeline. It makes you wonder what it's like for the attorneys dealing with this, right? Our source talked a bit about what happens when an RFI lands in their inbox.
Yeah, it's definitely not just a matter of firing off a quick email.
Not at all.
It's all hands on deck. They have to immediately contact the employer, even before the employer might have seen the official notification.
Oh, wow.
And then they have to analyze the RFI, figure out a plan of attack, set up calls, gather documents, make sure everything lines up with previous filings. It's a ton of work, and it all has to happen fast because of that 14-day deadline.
That's intense. I can see why some law firms are starting to look for new ways to handle all this extra work.
Right. One solution they're exploring is immigration legal process outsourcing, or LPO. It's basically like hiring a specialized team to help with the more routine administrative tasks. So instead of having the lawyers do every single thing themselves,
Right.
they can offload some of the more repetitive work to these LPO teams. This lets the in-house lawyers focus on the bigger picture, the legal strategy, and building relationships with their clients.
Interesting. So it's not about outsourcing the whole legal process, but more about getting help with the things that can be done more efficiently by a specialized team.
Exactly. Our source gave some really good examples of how LPO can help with PERM, especially with those early RFIs. For example, the LPO team can review the PERM application, that ETA 9141 form, before it's even submitted to the DOL,
Okay.
and try to spot any potential problems that might trigger an RFI. They can also help with drafting responses to common types of RFIs, putting together the necessary documents, and making sure those deadlines are met.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and for firms that get super busy during certain times of year, like during the H-1B cap season, LPO can provide extra support to handle the workload. It's really about being proactive and staying ahead of the curve.
And it makes sense, right? The time of experienced immigration attorneys and their staff is incredibly valuable. Having them spend hours on tasks that can be done by someone else just isn't the best use of their expertise. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. And if this trend of increased scrutiny continues, it could have implications beyond just delays. It might even make the U.S. less attractive to foreign talent if companies find it too difficult and time-consuming to hire people from other countries.
It's definitely something to watch.
So to sum it up, the big takeaway here is that the PERM process is facing a lot more scrutiny right from the get-go.
Definitely more RFIs, yeah.
This means employers and their lawyers need to be on top of their game and ready to respond quickly and effectively.
So all this makes me wonder, if the government is moving towards a more automated, data-driven approach to immigration processing, are we going to see similar trends in other areas? Are there other parts of this already complicated system that might become even more complex?
It's a great question. It's almost like we're seeing a preview of what the future of employment-based immigration might look like, and it's definitely something to think about.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was a great discussion.
It was a pleasure.
I'll thank you soon.
Sounds